Hi, Chris Glynn here with the Nightlight Podcast, the second show on our new dedicated Nightlight Podcast channel. And wow, so much has happened in the 5 or so weeks since the inauguration of President Trump that I've invited author and journalist Stephen Strutt to join us on today's program to give us his take on these latest current events.
End time news and views.
Today is the 26th of February 2025, and I've got to say that I'm absolutely amazed with the first 5 weeks since the inauguration of Donald Trump.
It's been amazing.
I think there are a lot of good things that have happened in these last 5 weeks, especially with the help of the Doge, as they call it, or the Department of Government Efficiency.
Right.
Or let's say to try and make things in the United States a lot more efficient in the government. And it looks like this is the first time I've ever seen a government do such a thing. Any government.
I know.
Where, as they say, they tidy up their act or they clean their dirty dog, which is about time, a lot of would say.
Absolutely.
We're trying to keep a sharp eye on what's going on in the States in the hope what they do there under Trump will be an example to the rest of the world about cleaning up their act too in their governments, cleaning up the act in their countries.
Let's see what happens.
Because we know since the COVID times, a lot of things have not been right. The good thing about the COVID times is it's raised up a lot of truthful people, honest people to stand up and talk about a host of topics from A to Z, and it's wonderful to have seen that. The effects of the negative has brought out the positive, as is said, and I'm very, very happy to have seen that.
Right.
This week I was very pleased to see I don't know if the rest of you saw this, you should. It was hilarious. CPAC, it's the American Conservative Union that was it started in 1974. And Elon Musk was there, and he was awarded a chainsaw by the president of Argentina. It was just hilariously funny.
Yes, I saw that. It was hilarious.
You know, I've never seen politics as interesting as the last 5 weeks. You know, it's like
very entertaining.
Normally, most people think, politics, yeah, that's dry stuff. You know, something we have to vote for when we're forced to, but mostly boring and just for rich people. But actually, it's been very interesting in the last 5 weeks, seeing so many countless things going on.
I know.
Most of which I thought was great.
Me too.
A nice change to give hope to the people that, well, maybe for once somebody might be listening to us a little bit. Maybe we'll get some changes. In fact, it's having repercussions here in Europe. Here in the UK, there's actually a lot of people who agree with Trump.
I'm sure. There's
a lot of people here who agree with what's going on. They say, I wish we had that freedom here. I wish we had that voice here. Because in the UK, it's very, very clamped down left wing. And a lot of people don't like it because they feel it's forced on them. It's not something they voted for.
That's true.
So that is the situation here in the UK right now, just in a few words.
Nightlight, keeping you in tune with the times.
But I tell you, it was very interesting. If you can, go and see what happened to the CPAC this last week at the American Conservative Union. And not only that, there was also there the British Nigel Farage from the Reform UK.
Yes.
He gets on very well with Trump, and he predicts that soon he'll be the Prime Minister of the UK. And I think it would be great if he is.
Well, by soon, we're talking about close to another 5 years, right?
5 years, if this world's got that amount of time.
I know.
Yeah.
Interesting also to see the former Prime Minister Liz Truss there. I didn't know she was so right-wing.
Oh, really? Yes. She was very interesting, too, because, well, they obviously kicked her out. She was only in power, I think, 26 days. She was only Prime Minister for 26 days because she was too right-wing. They didn't like it. The powers that be didn't like it. They wanted to keep their left wing going.
I see.
But anyway, that's another story.
Yes.
I wanted to point out it was good to see that Kennedy did get the votes to get confirmed.
He did. He just managed it.
As the Secretary of Health there. And he got confirmed with 52 against 48 votes against. Really good. And also we got the leader of the FBI, new leader, the head of the FBI. And he is a guy that's had a lot of main media against him, but he stands up against them very well. In fact, a lot of these characters that Trump has chosen, they are the kind of people that are no messing type characters, you know.
That's true.
Obviously, they didn't get in the position they're in and the power they have, the wealth they have by being Mr. Nice Guy. They got there by being tough. And I think that America is in a situation like that they need tough, almost military type determination to do things and not take all this, you know, anything goes attitude like we had before with the last government in the US. So I think it's very good to see Kennedy got confirmed there as a Secretary of Health. That was fantastic. And you got a very good person there at the head of the FBI too. So let's hope we'll see changes in America, great changes that will be an example for the rest of the world. I'll take my hat off if I can still talk like this in, say, 3 months' time, you know, by keeping observation on all that's going on. But so far, for the first 5 weeks, I'm very pleased with all I've read about and the videos I've watched and the different things going on. But of course, I understand it's a very, very difficult job for Trump. It's a very, very difficult job for all his people. They have a lot of opposition from the main press. In fact, the main press is getting more and more frantic. You won't believe the nonsense they say against Trump. It's ridiculous, you know, and against Elon Musk, you know, so much nonsense in the main media.
Yeah, I know. Of course, Donald Trump is used to that. The mainstream media have been attacking him for years.
I know.
Now the ratings of CNN and these others have gone way, way down, haven't they?
Oh, yes, I know. They're almost in non-existence land, the main media now. I mean, most people I talk to, they say, oh, I don't bother with the BBC, I don't bother with the main media, it's all rubbish anyway. That's what everybody says.
Well, I think it's really encouraging. There's not just Trump who's on a rampage, Stephen, because he's appointed like-minded people into top government positions like the Justice Department, Homeland Security, Health, FBI. These new heads of these departments are just as on fire. And I'm really impressed with Trump's choice for Vice President, J.D. Vance.
Oh, yes. That visit when he went to Munich. Incredible. Well, he told off at the military meeting there in Munich. He told off all these top leaders and military leaders. Look, you're doing it all wrong. We don't need these wars.
Yes.
We don't need this war in Ukraine. It's unnecessary. And they're freaking out now. You know, there's 30 leaders from Europe and all over the place assembling in Ukraine to discuss how they can keep the war going.
Keep the war going?
I mean, these guys are mad.
They're crazy.
They're only in it for the money, the power. Of course, you have to understand why. If Ukraine didn't happen to have 14 trillion in gems and precious things under the ground, no nation would be interested. It's the wealth that's there.
Right.
And Ukraine hasn't been able to get it out the ground. They don't have the means. So the powerful nations are in it for the money.
Pure and simple.
It's always the same, you know. The wars are always for money. But for once, America, of all people, the one who starts all the wars, she's saying, no, we don't want it anymore. So it's totally freaking out the people who have echoed America all these years, like Britain and France and Germany.
Yes.
And they just don't know where they stand anymore.
Right.
But obviously, Trump's doing the right thing. He's doing the right thing with Putin. Try and stop that ugly war in Ukraine, which is senseless. And from my last stats I heard, over 1 million people have died over there. Over 1 million. A lot more than 1 million people. For what?
I think it's 1.8 million.
You know?
Ukrainians, never mind the Russians.
I also think Europe has sort of sewn itself into a corner, if you want to put it. Europe is not what it was 30 years ago. It's not.
Not at all.
It's going down. Europe is going down financially. It's totally broke. Germany's totally broke. And it's just, I think the big danger we're in right now is Trump. He's become president at a very exceptionally difficult time. I think that's why he's trying to clean up the act. Because he knows if he doesn't clean up the act of the government, and other governments, other countries don't follow suit, the whole world's going down. It's going down. The things they are discovering in America, the fraud, and the amounts of money that have been pilfered in the trillions, you know, how much time do we have? So the whole system goes down, the whole financial system. I would in that say to people, please do not be deceived by Trump getting in as president to think all your problems are now solved and everything's hunky-dory and you can go back to sleep and just enjoy life. That is not reality.
Right.
No, now is the time to be thankful for the good. And I would say, those in the States, please do pray for your government. Keep doing the right things. And do pray that those who don't like Trump don't pull a fast one.
Anyway, even if they did manage to pull a fast one on Trump, get rid of him somehow, then they're going to have J.D. Vance to contend with as president. And he's a strong Christian, as are some of the other major appointees of department heads. That makes me believe that this is a move of God's Spirit to see Christians there in these powerful positions. If this was inspired by Satan, that's the last thing he'd want to do, put strong born-again Christians in top positions of government.
Yes, no, I agree with you. I think, though, that the Americans on the whole world needs to really pray for Trump and pray for those who don't like reverting back to the right ways and more conservative ways, and to take out. When Trump came on the scene, one of the first things he says, from now on, we've got male and female. That's it. Love it. That's perfect.
That was so good.
That's just so nice and simple. It's perfect. It says it all. You know, no more messing about. No more pulling a fast one and telling us and pulling the wool over our eyes and telling us something ain't true, like the left wing. You know, so it's wonderful to see what he's done so far in the first 5 weeks. I have to say that it's fantastic. I'll be praying for Trump and his team with my wife that things will keep going in the right direction and they will improve things for the American people. So the American people is not spending, I couldn't believe this. You know, $12 for, I think, 6 eggs in the US? $12?
$2 each? What?
Can you believe it? Yeah, somebody was saying that last night. I thought, what? I only pay £1.50. You know, I'm very fortunate here in Scotland. No, we don't have a problem with the eggs. Now, why would the eggs be at $12?
That's absurd.
Of course, the egg thing is a big topic in itself. The eggs is because it protects you from all kind of things. So you get rid of the eggs, you know, you're taking away people's resistance. I won't get into a big thing like this. It's a big health thing, that one, and the eggs, why the eggs have become very expensive. I would like to mention that another thing that's been happening is on a volcanic level. We've got problems with volcanoes, super volcanoes, all over the place.
Is it?
And not the ones you would think, according to the movies, you know. They always show the same volcanoes in America, but it's not that one.
What kind of volcanoes are they?
This is something potentially even more dangerous. It's in the Cascadia area in the States. Right, you know, right down the middle there.
Okay.
And then you've got the Santorini over there, Italy and Greece. They're very concerned about what's going on in Greece and Italy because we're having things that have been asleep for thousands of years, sometimes 500 years, waking up.
Really?
Doing, you know, and the question is why. They don't know why. All these volcanoes that were dormant or even dead, coming back to life. They don't have answers, but it's happening right now. So that is another thing on the volcanic earthquake scene. There's a lot going on.
Interesting.
I tell you, on this one, I've checked the scientific sites, you know, the famous ones that they lift up and vaunt. But I realized something. They tell you of the frequencies, say, of earthquakes. And, this year, they say like 2010 was the year with the most earthquakes in the most recent time, right?
Right.
But they're not telling you the whole story. They avoid certain truths.
Like what?
For example, they give these charts showing volcanic activity or earthquake activity. But what they're not telling you is that the intensity of the earthquakes is going up.
Really?
They show you the numbers, but they're not explaining, hey, it's no longer 3, it's now 5.
Wow.
On the earthquake scale, you see? So the actual intensity of the earthquakes is been going up in recent years.
I never knew that.
Yeah, we might not have as many numbers as we did 2010, but the intensity of them is greater. Now that's saying something. It's like the Earth is waking up. So that's on the, you know, the geological side.
Right.
Another thing that really concerns me is the digital ID and the progress that's gone on with that, because normally I would say that I don't normally would trust governments that are run all by billionaires or trillionaires. It doesn't sound right.
Right.
You know, most people would, especially if you're a socialist, you'd say, wait a minute, we can't have those guys in charge.
Right.
Not that I'm socialist, maybe I used to be, but no, I'm not anything anymore. I'm not socialist or capitalist or
Exactly.
right or left wing. No, I'm just sort out this planet, sort out this mess, because man on the right and on the left has always messed things up one way or the other, unfortunately. So we need Jesus to come back and set the record straight.
Wow, that'll be the day, yeah?
I would say also I admire the United States, I admire the people there, because obviously, as you correctly said, in order for them to get Trump there in power with all the opposition he's had against him, all the powers against him, and obviously 4 years ago when he didn't get in, that was because they cheated. When he did get in 4 years in 2020.
I believe it.
But they flipped it somehow, so he didn't get in anyway. But this time, what has happened is the people are so fed up with all the nonsense that you had both right and left wing voting Trump. Both sides voted him in. So you got 80% of the people voted for Trump.
That much?
Well, that wasn't expected. And the powers that be, they can't cheat something like that.
That's right.
If it's close one to the other, they can cheat it.
Yes.
But not when it's 80%.
It's overwhelming.
And I read all kinds of articles at the time how there was a lot of guys, they were getting in trouble with their girlfriends or wives because they were supposed to be socialist, and the husband went out and voted for Trump. And then the women said, okay, no sex for 4 years.
Really?
This sort of nonsense was going on. Left wing.
That's crazy.
That's what it was in the beginning. They were so freaked out because a lot of the men went out, so we're fed up with all this nonsense under the left wing. When they voted for Trump. And I can understand the American people. I think they did the right thing. They voted in change, is what the people want. They want change, and I sympathize with each one of them, because it's not right you pay $10, $12 for a packet of eggs. It's crazy. We pay £1.50 here in the UK. You know, so that's wrong. There's something definitely wrong there with the eggs there over in the US. But I think one of the longer term thing that is dangerous is the AI, the digital systems, because one way or other, what they're trying to do is they're trying to make everybody dependent in one way or other on digital AI. And I was realizing today, wait a minute. There's a lot of things in life where, believe it or not, human beings, they don't have to do things. We have choice. We have the majesty of choice. We don't have to do the evil thing. We can do the godly thing.
Yes.
And I'm convinced that under COVID, and those times, the people that decided, no, I'm not going to take those vaccines, I don't trust them. The people that decided not to take them, that was their choice. And I'm finding out now that even the powers that be and the negative side that try to push these things, that they have no power against choice. They don't.
They don't.
They like to pretend they can make people choose, but they can't.
That's right.
Everybody can choose. Everybody can choose, and not just about the vaccines. You can choose about everything in your life, what you believe, what you want to do. You have that great majesty that God's given you to choose.
Yes.
Nobody can force that on you.
No.
And that's why it's important we do not listen to too much fear-mongering, scaremongering, and especially when it's coercion. Oh, you got to get this or you got to get that. No, you don't. Take your time to pray about it. Take time.
So important.
In my personal life, we decided not to take the vaccine. That was our choice. And I don't regret that now, what I've seen. Unfortunately, I have a large family, and half of my children, adult children, they did take the vaccine. I'm just praying and hoping no harm will happen to them. You know, as I know it has happened to a lot of people, as reported by doctors and people all over the world. And that is a major topic, and that does concern me. They don't get back going in that direction in the States. Hopefully not. But the other thing is, I found out there's a link between all I just mentioned and the digital ID system. Because what it is you get vaccinated, it's to do with digital ID.
Yes.
They keep a record on you, and they know how many vaccines you had. They know where you live. They know where you are any moment. Well, why would you need that kind of control? Why?
That's right.
Why is that even necessary? So that's the thing to keep an eye on. Where's that going?
Signs of the times.
Another thing I want to point out is, I know that people are aware of this, is that, as many say, you can't trust the media. I know. But as other people who are journalists have said very well, he says it's getting very difficult because to go on the net now just to get information is getting crazy because what's put out there you can't trust.
Yes.
It's the same with the videos. So much of the videos, you look at them and say, this is just a load of nonsense. Where's the reality in this? Where's it going? You know? And then you switch off and you have to try and find information somewhere else. But it is true, what other journalists have said, a lot of the stuff put out is getting more and more fake. It's not real. I'll give you some examples. How many of you heard that the Prime Minister of Canada, Trudeau, had stepped down?
Yes, I heard that.
How many of you heard that Zelensky of Ukraine, he'd stepped down?
I didn't hear that.
Now you find out, wait a minute, what's going on next? And then 10 days later, you see a video. They're all over there in Ukraine, including Zelensky and Trudeau talking together over there with all the leaders there in Europe. The press is telling us one thing. The reality can sometimes be something totally different.
Yes.
And that's becoming difficult, you know, as a journalist. What's right, what's wrong, what's really happening, what isn't happening. And it's not just me saying that, there are other journalists saying the same thing. You know, so that's what I've been noticing more and more so. It's getting frustrating, just watching what's put out even on YouTube and what's put out. A lot of it, I think, is AI built. A lot of it is not necessarily real. And now they're mixing fantasy fiction with reality. You know, that's what's going on.
Right.
I know my son told me the same thing. I talked to my son on the phone the other day. He knows well about those things. He says, yeah, it's getting to be annoying, all this AI stuff and this artificial stuff, because it's not real.
That's right.
So that's another thing to watch out. Another thing I'd say to know more about is know about geoengineering and the chemtrails, because they're causing a lot of damage now. I don't know if you'll see it so much in places like Africa, but my golly, in the UK, we're obliterated with chemtrails. It's totally destroyed the weather here now. The last 5 years,
Gosh.
You don't get winters here now. You do not have winters.
Really?
It doesn't exist anymore.
Stephen, I've been reading about this strange fog that you've been having in the UK, and I think it's in America too, and it hangs around for days and it causes breathing problems. Have you experienced that where you are?
No, fortunately we haven't had that. I'm just disappointed we don't get winters anymore. You don't get snow anymore. We're in Scotland. They keep saying you're going to get snow, it's going to snow, and all this media, they said that at least 10 times this winter. It hasn't snowed one time. You see? Because they control the weather. The powers that be said by the year 2025, we control the weather all over the world. So it looks like it's happened. I can certainly say that for here in the UK. And many others tell me the same thing, thereby their own observations. You're told one thing and the weather's something totally different. Now here's another thing that concerns me. Apparently the left wing and the people behind them are getting very frustrated, especially in New York City, Atlanta, Denver, Chicago. And they say we need to have a French Revolution.
What does that mean?
They don't know what they're talking about. You better read the French Revolution before you make a statement like that on the left wing. You don't want that. That's the most vicious time there ever was, if there was a time. So that's another thing that's been coming out. Here's even bigger thing. I'd like to reiterate what survivalists have told you. And that is, I think right now is not a good time to trust in paper money. It's not a good time to trust in stocks. It's not a good time to trust in any of those investments. Something is going on. There are very powerful people, some of the biggest banks, and they've just been trading in, billions, and nobody knows why. Now, I just listened to some of the experts on finance yesterday, and they were saying everybody should go out and whatever money you're not using, whatever you got in the bank you don't need for a few months, put it into gold or silver. Get some gold and silver coins now. And this woman is an expert, she really is. She's explaining, look, I'll tell you something. The value of gold has been going up and up, and that's a whole topic in itself. Why? It's now gone up to almost $3,000 an ounce in the States. And she says, I want to tell you, that's not good news. That's very bad news. It was 1,800 just 18 months ago, and now it's 3,000.
3,000?
She says this is a sign that the whole financial system is unstable. It's going to go down. And she says, but I want to the individual, I want to point out this, that gold and silver, they always keep their intrinsic value. They always can buy the same thing you bought 30 years ago, maybe a bit more now, right? So if you just see that gold and silver is the real currency behind the paper currency and everything else. So you as a citizen, if you have some silver coins and some gold coins, and I want to say these days, you can actually get 1/10 of an ounce of gold now. You couldn't get that 30 years ago.
Really?
Right? So you can get a little bit of gold and silver. And she says, because, the values of silver and gold are highly underrated to what they're really worth. She explained what the real worth of an ounce of gold is. She said, if you buy an ounce of gold now, in the UK, it's about £2,500. You know what the real value is?
What is it?
It's not £2,500 for an ounce. The real value is about £80,000.
80,000?
So if you have one gold coin, you look it up. You have one gold coin. When they have to do a reevaluation of the money, which will happen if the money was to collapse, like the dollar, right? Then the gold and the silver will have to go back to their real value, because their real value has been held down for so long by having false currencies, alternative paper money, stuff that's not real. It's only IOU. Now that's an expert talking now. She's one of the top. And I thought, wow, I had no idea about this till yesterday. I didn't know silver and gold were worth that much. So I would say to people, if you got a little bit of money extra, get some gold and silver, as well as what is also, I would also suggest people get survival. Please have enough extra water, food in your house, because you never know when there's going to be some sort of crisis.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a total financial collapse. It could be something like a forest fire. It could be some sort of inconvenience. But of course, if there comes a major inconvenience like the bank collapse and that, don't think it can't happen. It can. A lot of those banks, they're already bankrupt.
It's true.
They've lived in so much debt for so long. That is reality of this crazy Western world. It was mad. People are living on interest of interest and debt and mortgages and credit cards and all that. And it's just everybody's living in the negative of money. And that's why people can't afford anything. So the first thing you've got to do is to get out of debt. Get out of all debt completely. And then if you're fortunate enough to have some extra money, invest in silver and gold, as well as survival food, water. And I would say, as my wife would say, get seeds so you can plant things. Get seeds so you can plant stuff in the house and outside the house. Because, it doesn't take much planting to live from.
Yes.
It doesn't. You know what you're doing. You don't have to depend on all those massive supermarkets and all the processed food if you know what you're doing. If you live naturally, it's something of the factor 10 times more nutritious than the stuff that people get in those restaurants and stuff. There's no comparison. That is another thing on the survival side. I thought I'd mention that because it seems to be very important, and unfortunately I think the powers that be, I agree with you though also, I believe that if it's true that millions of people in the States have been praying for God to change America, bring in a new government and like Trump, and that keep going that direction, that's great. That's wonderful. But you need to keep praying, because I'm telling you, there's very dark clouds out there, and there's a lot of disgruntled people, that want to do something and get rid of Trump. So just keep Trump in your prayers and his great team there. And let's keep praying that this change will change the world.
Well, thanks, Stephen, for your insights. And we're certainly living in exciting times, much more exciting over the past 5 weeks than it was before. Now, suddenly everything has got shaken up and things are really moving. And I'm sure the Lord is behind a lot of this shake-up. And of course, it's moving towards the revealing of the Antichrist and then the last 7 years and then second coming of Jesus. But at least things are moving fast now and moving in a more positive way than it was before. And all this may bring on the end quicker, which is also great. And we're seeing in the US, at least, a lot of positive change. And it's also great to see some of the villains of recent years being investigated and exposed and held to account. And they must really be shaking in their boots, don't you think, Steve? So I'm very much looking at the positives of what's happening right now and enjoying them while they last. But even if they don't last, then, well, we can look up and rejoice because we're that much closer to the Lord's return. And that great day comes when we will rule the world and help the Lord set everything right.
Well, one of the things I find cheerful about, the end time and the last 7 years in the Antichrist, if you study Daniel 11 and other chapters in the book of Daniel, it specifically says about the Antichrist, he should come in peaceably. It doesn't say he behaves like Biden and a left wing or a communist. It doesn't say he behaves like that at all. He comes in peaceably. He does what the people want him to do. He does something different for a change. And that's the kind of refreshing I feel with this new Trump administration. No, I'm not accusing Trump of being the Antichrist. No, of course not. But I do think that this psychology of instead of hitting the people over their head with rules and you can't do this, but to listen to them like Trump's done, listen to the people, so you end up getting the biggest landslide election in American history. Wow. Now that's different. I take my hat off to that. That is amazing. And I think it's an illustration of what the Antichrist will do in the future. He's going to maybe learn from what's going on now, maybe incorporate it into his plans. No, I don't think the Antichrist comes out of America. No, I don't think so at all. But it doesn't mean to say what's going on now won't influence the thinking of the coming world leader.
And you'll find the links to Stephen's YouTube channel and website below. This is the second show on this new channel that's dedicated to the Nightlight podcasts. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. We'll be posting a new show every Sunday. Be sure to ring the notification bell so that you don't miss any. God bless you, and bye for now.